At 68, Steve Harvey stands at a crossroads he never wanted, forced to address a rumor that has followed him like a shadow. For years, whispers about his wife and a member of his own security team grew louder, echoing far beyond the walls of Hollywood gossip. Now, for the first time, Steve himself has decided to confront the speculation that has tested his marriage, his image, and his legacy. What he reveals is not sensationalism, but a painful truth about pressure, reputation, and the cost of being watched by millions. This is where the story truly begins. Long before the rumors about his marriage began clouding headlines, Steve Harvey spent decades building the kind of public persona that seemed almost untouchable. His rise from a struggling young comedian in the 1980s to one of the most recognizable hosts in America was not an accident, but a carefully shaped transformation. In his early stand-up days, Steve's routines were raw, edgy, and rooted in blue-collar observations. But as opportunities expanded from Def Comedy Jam to the original Kings of Comedy, Steve slowly shifted into a broader, more family-friendly figure. By the time he became the face of national television through Family Feud, The Steve Harvey Morning Show, and Little Big Shots, his image was no longer that of a comedian fighting for a spotlight. Instead, he became a cultural caretaker, someone viewers trusted for advice, guidance, and moral clarity. This evolution was very much strategic. His book, Act Like a Lady, Think Like a Man in 2009 solidified him as a relationship authority, particularly among his female audience. He learned that relatability could be monetized and authenticity could be branded. Producers saw him as dependable, advertisers viewed him as safe, and audiences embraced him as a man who had survived hardship and emerged wiser. This was a persona built on consistency, faith, and the belief that mistakes, no matter how public, could be redeemed. Yet the stronger a brand leans on integrity, the more fragile it becomes at the slightest hint of inconsistency. When whispers about Marjorie Harvey and a supposed affair with a bodyguard surfaced in 2023, they did not just attack their marriage. They challenged the very foundation of Steve Harvey's identity. His reputation had long depended on the idea that he practiced what he preached. Suddenly, audiences questioned whether there was a fracture behind the polished interviews, the fatherly advice, and the faith-driven monologues. The real story, however, was far more complicated than scandal or headlines could capture, because behind Steve's moral authority stood a woman who shaped more of his world than the public ever realized. As Steve Harvey's fame expanded, so did the public's fascination with the woman beside him. Marjorie Harvey did not simply appear in his life. She became woven into the evolution of his brand. When they married in 2007, Steve often credited her as the catalyst for the second half of his success. He spoke openly about how she refined his perspective, softened his edges, and helped him become the man many viewers admired on television. Marjorie, with her poised demeanor and impeccable sense of style, grew into an influential figure in her own right. She stepped seamlessly into the spotlight through Harvey events and the Steve and Marjorie Harvey Foundation, shaping not only the public-facing charity work, but also the aesthetic and lifestyle tone associated with the Harvey name. Her presence made the couple seem polished, unified, almost aspirational. For years, fans viewed her as the elegant anchor behind Steve's transformation from comedian to global multimedia personality. But public opinion began to shift as old footage resurfaced online, particularly a 2016 clip of her offering advice to a woman whose partner had cheated during pregnancy. At the time, viewers saw the moment as confident and empowering. But after the infidelity rumors about Marjorie circulated in 2023, the clip took on a different weight. Suddenly, comments filled with irony began to surface, questioning whether her past advice aligned with her own rumored actions. The timing could not have been worse. It did not help that Marjorie exudes a level of influence uncommon for celebrity spouses. She had become a visible part of Steve's business empire, shaping events like the Sand and Soul Festival and guiding brand decisions behind the scenes. Admirers saw a power couple, while critics saw someone whose rise seemed too rapid and whose influence felt deeply intertwined with Steve's persona. By 2023, public curiosity about her reached a boiling point. Was she the supportive partner described by Steve, a misunderstood woman shaped by gossip, or a power player whose influence blurred personal and professional boundaries? The truth, as always, was neither simple nor one-sided, and it set the stage for the rumor that would soon test every part of their carefully curated world. In August 2023, the calm around Steve and Marjorie Harvey ruptured almost instantly when a single tweet, later deleted, claimed that Marjorie had engaged in an affair with Steve's personal bodyguard and chef. The source provided no evidence, no witnesses, and no context. Yet within minutes the rumor ignited across social media, fueled by commentary channels, gossip blogs, and thousands of fans eager to dissect every detail. Hashtags began trending, and old interviews, family photos, and even body language clips were pulled apart as if the internet had suddenly turned into a worldwide investigation unit. In a digital era where speculation travels faster than truth, the story spiraled long before Steve Harvey had a chance to speak. Online conversations quickly shifted from disbelief to armchair analysis. A resurfaced clip of Steve leaning slightly away from Marjorie during a conversation about infidelity became a focal point, as if posture alone could confirm a scandal. Context mattered little. The internet did what it often does. It built a narrative from fragments, emotions, and projection. For the first time in a long while, Steve Harvey, a man who had practically built a career on controlling his own story, found himself cornered by a narrative he did not create. His response came during his appearance at InvestFest 2023 in Atlanta. Instead of offering a lengthy explanation or defensive monologue, he made a brief statement that carried both exhaustion and intent. "Before I get started, just let me say I'm fine. Marjorie's fine. I don't know what y'all doing, but find something else to do because we fine. Lord have mercy." The crowd applauded, relieved to hear from him directly. Yet the ambiguity of his words opened the door to even more speculation. Some saw strength, others saw evasion, and many simply did not know what to believe. Marjorie followed with a more pointed response on Instagram, sharing an article titled "How to Handle Being Lied About." Her caption echoed Steve's tone, measured, spiritual, and firm. She wrote that she and her husband did not always respond to all the crazy and falsehoods, adding that those who face similar struggles should remember that with great blessings often come heavy burdens. Despite their united front, the storm did not fade. If anything, the denials only sharpened public curiosity. As the rumors intensified, the internet began focusing not just on statements, but on micro-moments, clips, expressions, posture, pauses, anything that might hint at the truth behind the Harvey marriage. A moment from 2016 resurfaced again and again, showing Steve and Marjorie seated together while advising a young couple dealing with infidelity. In 2016, it appeared heartfelt and supportive. In 2023, it became something entirely different, dissected frame by online detectives searching for hidden meaning. Steve Harvey, whose career has long depended on emotional openness and unscripted honesty, suddenly found those same traits turned against him. Every shrug became doubt, every sigh became symbolism, and every silence was magnified into a message. This was the cost of a brand built on relatability. Steve had always been expected to be real and transparent, but reality is rarely that simple. Not every gesture carries hidden meaning, and not every moment is meant for public decoding. Yet in the age of digital magnification, public figures no longer control the lens through which their lives are viewed. The audience does. With each reposted clip and amateur body language analysis, Steve's carefully maintained image began to strain under expectations he could no longer fully control. Long before the 2023 rumors shook the Harvey household, Steve Harvey's personal life had already been shaped by decades of complicated family dynamics, legal disputes, and emotional scars. Though he often presents his blended family as a unified, loving unit with 7 children from 3 marriages, including the 3 he adopted from Marjorie, that harmony was hard-earned. Beneath the polished surface lies a history marked by public feuds, courtroom battles, and lingering tensions. The most notorious conflict remains his divorce from Mary Shackelford, finalized in 2005, but echoed for years in interviews and lawsuits. Mary alleged infidelity and emotional devastation, while court records showed she received multiple homes, a financial settlement, and support payments. Later legal disputes, including a dismissed lawsuit and a contempt charge for violating a gag order, kept the story alive in public conversation. Against that backdrop, Marjorie entered Steve's life not only as a partner, but also as a stabilizing force. Steve has repeatedly said she made him a better man, a better father, and a stronger version of himself. Together, they built a narrative centered on redemption, unity, and second chances. But when new rumors collided with old controversies, the pressure on that carefully built family image intensified. Another layer of Steve Harvey's identity inevitably entered the conversation: his faith and philanthropy. For decades, he has leaned heavily on spirituality, crediting divine guidance for his rise from hardship to success. When addressing the 2023 allegations, he again framed his response in faith-infused language rather than direct confrontation, repeating that he and his wife were fine and leaving the rest to interpretation. Through the Steve and Marjorie Harvey Foundation, the couple has also invested heavily in mentorship programs, scholarships, youth camps, and initiatives like the Disney Dreamers Academy. These efforts have earned admiration and recognition, including awards for philanthropy. To supporters, these acts reinforce Steve's legacy of service and resilience. To critics, they raise questions about how public generosity intersects with personal reputation. In the digital age, every part of a celebrity's life is amplified. Past controversies resurface, old clips gain new interpretations, and mistakes, like the infamous Miss Universe announcement error in 2015, become part of a larger narrative about control, humility, and recovery. Steve Harvey once turned that mistake into a lesson about accountability and resilience. But the scrutiny he faces now feels different. At 68, Steve Harvey is not simply confronting a rumor. He is facing a broader test of endurance. The question is no longer just whether the allegations are true or false. It is whether the legacy he built, rooted in family, faith, humor, and perseverance, can withstand a world that dissects every word, gesture, and silence. What happens when a man who has survived decades of controversy, setbacks, and public mistakes must once again face the court of public opinion? That question remains unanswered.